Limar,
Mackenzie.
guess what we're doing today?
Is it that super popular movie with two Michael B. Jordans that came out like a month and a half ago?
Yes. I'm so excited for a number of reasons. One, I love vampire movies, so let's just head off with that. Two, I get to stare at two Michael B. Jordans for 2 hours, so it was a great time for me.
I'm excited because I
Um,
get to wear this hat. So, those of you on video, you're welcome. There's never going to be, until we do Newsies, I don't know when else I get to wear this hat, but it feels 1930s to me. So, you're
which
welcome.
also feels like a missed opportunity now that we're talking about it. I feel like we should do that as well. But yes, I thought it was a great choice. I felt not costumed enough as a result, but we like it. It looks good. But I'm now going to make you do something that you may not like,
Yeah.
which is take a quiz, take a test. I mean, do teachers like tests or do they just like giving tests?
We just like giving tests because then you can do whatever that you can play on your phone. That's like the teacher's opportunity to play on their phone is when the
Right.
kids are taking
You get a
tests.
breather.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't get a breather this time. I get to get the breather this time. All right.
Okay. Fair.
So I have a fun little vampire movie quiz, and I'm really curious actually how you're gonna do. Because some of these are like deep cuts, but some of them I would consider classics. So
And we have established that I don't love vampire. I got nothing against him. It's just not my sort
it's not your
of.
genre.
It's not my
He's a zombie
monster.
guy. I'm
I'm
a
a zombie
vampire
guy.
girl. You know what
Yeah,
it is? It is
it
what it
makes
is.
for a
There's
good
always
podcast.
I was gonna
But
say there's gotta be
yeah,
one in every relationship. There's gonna be one in every pod. So, here we
so
go.
yeah, I'll give this a shot. But yeah, I might bomb. We'll see.
We'll see. There's 10 questions. So, you got a decent shot here. All right, number one, in Interview with the Vampire, who's the interviewee? A. Lestat de Lioncourt, played by Tom Cruise. Louis Dupont du Loc, Brad Pitt. Armand, Antonio Banderas. Or Claudia, Kirsten Dunst.
Who's the person being interviewed in
Who's the
Interview with
interviewee?
Vampire?
Yeah, who's
Okay,
being interviewed?
it's Brad Pitt. I do remember that one.
What's his character name? You don't have
LeBlanc,
to get the whole
Luce
long
Blanc,
name.
whatever you said.
Louis.
Oh,
Louis
Louis.
the one that we love. We love Louis. Okay. Where is the Lost Boys set?
I know this because they reference it in Us, and I've seen The Lost Boys once. It's in California, Santa Monica, somewhere in California.
Oh, I'll give you all the options. To be fair,
Okay,
you're
okay.
right. I got to give you multiple choice. You're right. So where is the Lost Boys set? Santa Carla, Santa Barbara, Santa Ana, Santa Monica.
I'm still gonna stick with Santa Monica because I know there's a pier, but I don't know.
Final answer?
Yes,
Okay. No, that would be Santa Carla. There's a pier and
at
you have the
least
Santa
hey,
part
I
right.
got half of the answer right without even getting the multiple choice.
If they
So
gave you did, and if they gave you half points, you would totally get it for the Santa part.
if I was
So,
one of those students that the teacher pitied, I would get a half point for getting.
is
Well,
that
you
the
got
rule? They
Santa.
feel bad for
Yeah,
you if they
even
give
on
you a half
multiple
a
choice,
point.
they're like, "Well, he got the Santa part. We'll give him 50%." Yes.
Oh wow! I didn't get those. They didn't pity me. Damn it. Who plays the leader of the vampires in Near Dark? A. Sigourney Weaver. B. Michael Bean. C. Lance Henriksen. D. Paul Reiser.
That is on our Halloween watch list this year. It wasn't streaming anywhere last year because we tried to watch it. And I know one of these people, I'm pretty sure one of these people's in it, but I don't know if they play the good guy or the bad guy. But I'm going to go with Michael Bean.
Lance Henriksen.
Okay, that's fair. I don't know who I'm thinking of then. Maybe it's like Bill Paxton. I've seen pictures of a guy in that. Maybe I'm mixing him up with like Bill Paxton or somebody else from Tombstone.
It's okay. I feel like this is your one to come back. Okay.
Okay, all right.
So,
I'm doing great.
what's the title of George A. Romero's 1976 film about a teenager who believes he's a vampire? A. Peter. B. Gregory. C. Martin. D. Oliver.
Well, I know that Martin was a 90s television show. It was a Martin Lawrence vehicle, so it's not that one. I'm going to go with Gregory.
Okay, we're putting it in, and it's Martin.
What? But that's a TV show with Martin Lawrence. How could it also be a movie? That doesn't make any sense.
Because nobody has ever named anything the same thing
Does Martin
twice.
Lawrence play the teenager in this motion picture with George Romero in 1976?
Because he's also the only one who could be cast in this in 1977.
Is Martin Lawrence a vampire? Is that what we're learning?
I think that's what it is.
I mean, but that tells you how little vampire films I watch, that even the Romero one I've never seen, you know?
I kind of thought the Romero one would be your one. Okay. The number 5, Let the Right One In was remade as
Wait, don't tell me.
Okay.
Well, okay, if I get this wrong, then you can give me the multiple choice, but I think it's just called Let Me In.
Yes.
Okay,
Good
sweet.
job.
I did see the
I didn't
original,
give you the options.
and I knew they remade it. I do. We were talking before we got on of what our favorite vampire films are, and that's in my top 2. So
Nice. Okay,
good.
well, that makes sense. I want you to know that option D, though, was, seriously, dude, can I come in now?
I would watch that vampire movie.
I mean, yeah, that checks out. That also checks out. Okay, so which one of these, though, isn't a real film?
Okay.
A, Batman Fights Dracula. B, Dracula's Dog. C, Dracula and Son. D, Dracula in Space. Fun fact, I don't know this one.
You don't say.
So we're going to find out together.
All the movies you've seen and you haven't watched Dracula's Dog. What was the third one again?
Dracula and Son.
I'm going to go with that one. Fuck it. That seems like
Which
the one that would make the most sense.
isn't a real film. Just making sure. Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Ooh, Dracula in Space.
I could have sworn that was the only one I was pretty sure was what. Why has he not gone to space?
He's like, fuck Space Jam. Like, we obviously need a Dracula in space. Obviously.
Yeah, I mean, Jason Voorhees has gone to space. Leprechaun has gone to space. Why?
Katy Perry has gone to space. Like, everybody's fucking gone to
space. 3
space.
key villains that have gone to space. Why has Dracula not gone?
Oh, if y'all didn't know, we are not a Katy Perry pod, is what we've learned.
I feel bad. She's getting a lot of shit. We don't have to dwell on that, but all apologies, Katy Perry. You're low-hanging fruit these days, and I hope that life is going okay for you.
I mean, I don't wish her ill, but she doesn't seem great. So, anyway, just saying. Number 7. Who was the original Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Christy Swanson. I had a crush on her when I was a kid.
Damn, y'all. I wasn't even like, I barely finished it. And he was like, you know what I know? Girls. Yes. I know girls.
I know girls that I had crushes on when I was like 8, 9 years old. And Luke Perry was in that. And Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman, was one of the vampires in that.
Was it only the girl we had a crush on?
All 3 of them, actually. I was like, I like all flavors, turns out.
I mean, why not? That was a handsome looking crew. Who directed Bram Stoker's Dracula?
Wait, I might know this already. Bram Stoker's Dracula. Was it not Bram Stoker? He didn't direct this? Wait, do I
He did not get around to that in his lifetime, but I do think that's a good call out, you know. Keep in mind that there are Bram Stoker's Dracula, and then there are Dracula movies. And Bram Stoker's
Stoker
Dracula
is the one with Gary
is
Oldman, right?
Specific one, yes.
I can remember the cast, and it's got Keanu Reeves in it. Am I making that up?
No, you're not making that up.
Okay.
Do you want the list?
Let me hear the choices. Yeah.
Okay. A, Peter Bogdanovich. B, Francis Ford Coppola. C, Martin Scorsese. D, William Friedkin.
Why do I know the name William Friedkin? What else did he do?
Exorcist.
I don't... It's not... Fuck it. I'm going to go Francis Ford Coppola. Why not?
Good job.
Thank you. Like, that seems
and even
like
wink
something
at
he
you.
would do as like a passion project. Yeah.
And also, of the of those, he's the only one who would do Bram Stoker's Dracula. If we're being honest,
I want to see Martin Scorsese's Dracula. Get the Bram
No,
Stoker
you
out
don't.
of
That'll
there.
be 4.5 hours long.
With lots of guns.
There will be a Tommy gun no matter what, for sure. Okay, number 9. What's the name of Kristen Stewart's character in Twilight?
Bella something. Bella Lestrange. Bella Ramsey. Bella.
I have options if you want them. You would already get a half a point. I can tell you that.
They all start with Bella?
Yeah. No, they do not.
Bella. Okay, go ahead. Give me choices. I feel like it's gonna be dead
A.
air.
Bella Swan.
Okay.
B. Allison Penguin. C. Nancy Albatross. D. Nick Drake.
Oh, well, then I will go with A. Bella Swan.
Look at you go. You did
Yes.
it. Okay, last one. In Hammer's 1958 film Dracula, who played Dracula? You want the
58.
I feel like you're gonna want the options, and it'll maybe trigger something in you.
I feel like I only know the like 1930s Dracula. Okay, go ahead. Let's hear him.
A. Bela Lugosi. B. Peter Cushing. C. Christopher Lee. D. Michael Gough.
I know Christopher Lee has played Dracula, and it was in color. So I don't 58. And I'm pretty sure I've seen Peter, and I know for sure Bela Lugosi, but I think he was before this. Fuck it, we'll go Christopher Lee.
Yes, good
Yeah.
job. All right. I was like sending you vibes if it made you feel
Well, I
any
was
better.
picturing how old he was at Lord of the Rings time, and I was like, yeah, I'm looking the picture I have of him with the fangs.
50s, that checks out.
Yeah, yeah.
He also, fun fact, if you didn't already know, and I think I've dropped this fact on the pod before because I love it, he reads a lot of really dark material. Like he'll read Edgar Allan Poe, and he read like the Highwayman poem, and they're really actually, because his voice is so incredible, they're really cool. And there's actually one that's really well done about Fall of the House of Usher that's on YouTube. So you can watch like an animated video and hear him narrating over it. And
That's
it's
cool.
Oh, it's so good. Anyways, okay. So, drum roll. Your
5.
score is 6 out of 10.
Oh, look
You
at
did
that.
great.
I got an F, but not
Listen,
an F minus.
Isn't that a D in like teacher speak?
I think they've lowered the bar because it used to be when I was a kid it was 65 was like
Was a
passing.
D.
Now I think it's 60 is passing. So
Okay. I
yeah,
have never gotten a D.
maybe
I'm
it is
sure
like
you
a
would be
D
shocked
minus
to
at this
hear, so
point.
I don't really know how that works, but I thought D's were 60s. Okay, well, all that to say, you did better than you thought you did, and we have to give credit where it's due. You're not a vampire guy, so I was impressed.
Not a vampire guy, not a vampire. But now let's talk about this movie about vampires.
Let's do it. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lamar, and I might also play a second character today because I want to get paid twice to be here, just like Michael B. Jordan did.
What's
for
the name
now,
of
I'm
the other
just Lamar.
character?
Okay,
well, come back to us. We need another character by the end. You'll have to make an appearance later with "Now I am."
There's no compound words where you can push Lamar up against something else like you can smoke and stack. So I don't know that this is going to work. But
I'm surprised you didn't just immediately say lemur.
Lamar and Lemur. That'd be my parents would be fucked up if I had a twin and his name was Lemur. But yeah.
I'm just saying people mess that up. You know, they switch them all the time, and so now and their names are very close too. So I'm just saying it could maybe work. Anyways, if you guys couldn't tell, we are starting off a new month here with it being the beginning of June, and we're keeping it pretty flexible this month, and we're gonna call this just June. Because
it's just June, guys.
It's just fucking June, y'all. Like, it's going to be the month of June. We're going to talk about movies in June. They're going to be probably pretty fucking random, to be honest. And also, we just can't not name the month. So it's just June. Welcome to just June.
Yeah, plus we just hit 100 degrees in Austin yesterday for like the third earliest time ever. And we're tired of thinking. It's already hot here. So we just wanted a month where, hey, we're not going to commit to anything for 4 weeks. Let's just do movies we kind of want to do that haven't fit anywhere else yet.
It's true. I do feel like we have some random ones in there that we've talked about. They don't really fit into a theme. So I think it'll be fun to just, ad hoc be like, this is what I'm feeling this week. So to start us off, though, we both saw this fantastic new release, Sinners. And you saw it twice. So
I've seen it twice, and apparently a lot of people have seen it twice because it is making a killing. Pun intended.
It is. It is. We will get into all the production things that are pretty groundbreaking about this one, if we're being honest. But we'll get there. So what are we drinking for this one? This one's kind of fun.
Yeah, I like the color. I'll show that in a second. But this is, as always, from at Craft World, providing our bevy. And we're gonna do some mezcal today. So we wanted to
Yeah.
honor this with sort of smoke and stack, and we're calling this smokestack. So this is 2 ounces of mezcal, which is a smokier, semi tequila tasting drink, but or spirit, and 2 ounces of strawberry puree, 1.5 ounces of cranberry juice, and half an ounce of lemon. I'm gonna say this now. I personally, this is going to shock Skylar to no end. I might do a little less of the puree depending on what puree you're using, because it's sweet, which I do like, and it offsets the smokiness of the mezcal, but might scale back just a little bit on the puree. You might get a sugar
Yeah.
headache. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, we were recording a couple today and we had a lot of puree today. So, but it is a good, I mean, mezcal is a good one to kind of cancel out sweetness in
Yeah,
general if you
yeah.
ever are gonna. It's an agave liquor. It's definitely more smoky. And I do think it can be very divisive, to be clear. So you could do this with the tequila if you wanted. And if you did, I would super pull back on the puree for sure. Because that'll be way too sweet. But mezcal is like pretty smoky, but
Mm-hmm.
there are some that are better for cocktails than others, I think. This is a
Yeah.
good one. All right. What are we got a cheers to my apropos glass here.
Very fitting. But yeah, I love the colors coming in. Very vampire red. So
Yep.
yeah, cheers.
Cheers. I also, fun fact, did a snake cube because there are parts of it, and we'll get to it, that give me very like serpent in the garden vibes.
Oh, for
So I was
sure.
like, you know, it would be cool. It'd be little serpents.
I
Serpent
thought of you
cube.
the other day because I got a targeted Instagram ad with Godzilla shaped ice cubes. I'm like, Mackenzie would love this. Oh.
You were like, I was hanging out near Mackenzie's phone because now I'm getting targeted ice cube ads.
Yeah.
For sure. Well, yeah, send that on over when you get the chance. Anyways, we are going to get into this. Like we said, it's a brand new release, 2025. And we'll hit you with some like basic factoids that are spoiler free. Don't worry. And our quick assessment of whether or not you should go see it, which I think you can maybe tell we would recommend. And then we'll give a spoiler warning and get into the good stuff. So, quick facts, 8.1 out of 10 right now on IMDb. So, doing pretty solid.
Yeah.
It is also a 97% from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, of course, very high, but it is also a 96% from audiences. And it even has the little popcorn guy with the like hot denotation, as in it's like on fire right now. I feel like I don't think we've covered one that's doing that in real time while we're checking it out.
This is
So
Rotten Tomatoes that has this?
yeah, it has like a little. This
There's
is
like a
one of the
hot
hot
popcorn
films.
guy? Like the
Yeah,
people that sell popcorn at baseball
no,
games?
it's
Like
not
a
a
hot.
popcorn guy. It's an icon. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's just it's a little popcorn icon that says hot on it. I've never seen that. At least
Do you,
not on the ones that we've covered.
do you think that this movie, I kind of honestly, like, I didn't think of this during the cold open, but I kind of feel bad that we're already letting people know that there's vampires, because I feel like it could have been a cool reveal if the trailers hadn't given so much away. I know we have to
I was gonna
sell
say, I
the
think the
movie.
trailers kind of say that, right?
Yeah,
Like, I
that's what I
don't.
mean.
Okay.
But upon watching it, I went, how much different would this hit if you knew going into it, okay, it's scary, but you didn't find out until 30 minutes in that there were even vampires involved in this. That could be kind of cool. But yeah,
I
I
think
just
that was a few people's experience, but
yeah.
because I feel like I knew a couple people who like didn't know what they were getting into when they went and saw it. They just were like, "Oh, it looks like a good new release," and also like Michael B. Jordan's in it. I'll go watch anything that he does, kind of vibes. But I didn't really ask like what they thought about. What was that reveal? What was the reveal moment like when you realized that? But yeah, the trailer I guess does kind of give it away.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, that's what trailers do. They have to get people to want to go see the film, and who knows if this would have performed if it hadn't, given some of the details away. So all that to say, I think what I was going to ask was, I feel like all horror is kind of cyclical. Of like, zombies were peaking 10 years ago, and now we're kind of fatigued.
Mm-hmm.
Vampires, I think, some people would say Twilight was like a peak. Other people are like purists, or like that doesn't really count, but are we just at the right time? Like, is this going to spur a shit ton more vampire movies? Do you think we're just at the right time, or is this a great movie on its own without even the fact that we're ready for a new great vampire film?
I think this. I think it's a two-part answer. I think this is a great film independent of being a vampire film. And I think that's a whole different thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I think, will it, being a vampire movie, like you said, which, sometimes comes in trends, inspire more vampire movies? I would anticipate, yeah. I feel like zombie movies have been the same way. Godzilla
Mm-hmm.
movies have been the same way. You know what I mean? Like big monster, like whatever, insert monster here. It's been like a phase of them usually. You usually see at least a handful for a little while. So yeah, I would anticipate a few more vampire movies. Will they be as original as this? I just think that's pretty doubtful.
Yeah.
And while it is still really original, think vampire movies, there's still some core things that are the same. But I do think it's really original. So I don't think we'll see something like it, but I think we will see more vampire movies for sure.
Agreed.
Alrighty, well, let's get through. It's actually a very incredible and big cast and crew. So I kind of narrowed it. Feel free to pop in any that I forget. Please tell me if I forget anybody critical. There's a lot of people in this movie. Director, writer here, Ryan Coogler, which I think, we've talked about him in the past, mostly by association to Michael B. Jordan, with whom he's, collaborative partners, creative partners on this and many other things. They did Black Panther together, obviously, Creed, Fruitvale Station. So they're really like a strong partnership, and we'll get into it, but also the composer as well of this film. They have done 5 films together, Ludwig Göransson. And so that's like kind of a little trio, and they're actually all executive producers on this movie. And so, yeah, we have him starting us off, and they just like keep crushing it. All the things they keep doing, they just keep crushing
I
it together.
didn't know that until I saw the little I didn't piece together that Michael B. Jordan had literally been in every film that he directs. That's pretty
Yeah.
fucking cool when you think about it. I know directors always have their favorite actors, but it feels like they came up together in a way. And yeah, you can definitely see how Jordan is getting a chance to expand outside of his comfort zones in some of these roles, and like really a
Yeah.
chance to branch out. I think he wasn't even a huge horror fan leading up to this film. He kind
Yeah.
of took this role, I think in his words, to sort of take the edge off of, hey, this isn't my genre, but I kind of want to get in and make a movie like this
Yeah.
and see what the big deal is. And then afterward, he said that grew his appreciation for the genre. So if you guys end up getting Michael B. Jordan and Paranormal Activity 14 or whatever number they're on now, you're
You can
welcome. Like
blame Ryan
Saw
Coogler for that.
37. Yeah.
Oh, please don't. Please don't, Michael. But yes, obviously he's our lead here, as we've alluded to. He's our dual lead, though. He plays Elijah Smoke and Elias Stack. So Smoke and Stack is really what they're referred to throughout. And again, he does such a really good job of leaning into this character. I think the nice thing too is that, yes, he's in a horror genre, and it is a horror story here, to be sure. His character is independent of that, right? Like the character doesn't know exactly what's going to
Right.
happen. Obviously, you don't know the world that you're in until you're in it, right? But he very much plays each side of that coin differently, and he still like does a really good, I think, character study of the differences between the two, and then they get put in these very extenuating circumstances, and we see
Yeah,
how
you
that
you
rolls out.
know that you are watching. There is never a point during this. One of my first notes is there was a time. It's part of it is a product of what time we live in movie making, where you don't have to question, oh, how are they doing this effect where the same actors
Mm-hmm.
on screen. We used to always be able to catch little things of, oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's a green
Mm-hmm.
screen or that's a body
Or
double.
that's a CGI
Yeah,
face or whatever. Yeah, yeah.
didn't find myself thinking about that at all. I was
Didn't
not the
catch it
first time
anywhere,
watching
really.
it, didn't wasn't even conscious of thinking about it. It's just such a non-factor these days. But to your point, you also need a killer performance from the one person portraying two
Yeah.
characters, and they feel unique. They do have a
Yeah.
lot of overlap, and they are obviously paired together and very close. But his portrayal of the two different characters, they stand out with more than just their blue and red hats. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
100%.
they make it
I told
obvious in some way from a visual perspective that they're different, but from his performance is also very different.
And there's subtle I mean, like the way that they stand is different. The way that they
Mm-hmm.
walk is different. You know what I mean? Like his characters are very different. And I think the key here versus in other films where you've seen that is that you're never distracted enough to go looking for
That's a
maybe
good
there
call.
are some subtle things, right? Like maybe you're in a theater, you're overwhelmed by everything that you're seeing, but maybe there's a subtle thing here and there. One that comes to mind for me actually is Social Network. Even though they did do a good job, the Social Network, Army Hammer guy, like there were several moments where I'm like, I can see little things that tell you that this is a different character versus here. Like I was so engrossed that I'm not distracted at all. I'm not even looking for it.
Yeah.
Could we find it if we dug for it? Maybe. But yeah, you never really see it. And it reminds me a little bit of the Legend with Tom Hardy, where he does the same thing. He plays brothers who are twins, and they are same, very notably different characters. And I wonder, I didn't really dig into it, but I wonder how much of that informed this performance. But it's wholly unique. He does a really, really good job of making them really independent folks. So
Check that out.
all that to say, we got a bunch more to talk about Mr. Jordan, so we'll move on for now. Miles Catton is another one that we're going to just fucking rave on, if you ask me,
Yeah.
as well, especially in terms of his voice. He is Sammy Preacher Boy Moore, and this is his debut. This is acting debut. He's a singer and he's a blues artist, and they were so impressed by his audition tape day one. Like he was just wholly engrossed in this character, and then he was just the way that he sang and performed was apparently so intriguing that it just really sucked Ryan Coogler in. So, and you can, even just reading about that later, I was like, that makes perfect sense. Like just hearing him kind of every point that he evolves in this story, he's engrossing. You're very interested in everything that he's doing, his performance, his immersion into this character, and he does such a great job for this being his first freaking time acting. It's incredible.
Yeah. I think some of the moments in this wouldn't hit the same if you knew, oh, this is a singer that's in this role. Like when we're watching Amelia Perez and Selena Gomez is in it. It's like, well, she's going to get a cool track to sing, right? Like in this, I think like a few of the key moments of him performing would not hit the same if you knew that they had cast a singer in the role. So
No, and I think like he looks so young too. He looks so much like his character. He's this young boy who's, starting to kind of explore the world and all that. And like he could be this little like dweeb kind of boy, but then he opens his mouth to sing and it pulls you in a totally different way. And it has this depth and this resonance and this maturity to his voice that speaks to life experience that looking at the kid you would never believe him to have, right? Like that's the blues, and he sings it in his whole body. So we'll talk a lot more about the music, of course, but I just think it was really incredible. It's his first time acting. He does such a great job. Haley Steinfeld, she plays Mary. She's been in a number of things, and something I was going to call out is she is a young woman. I didn't look up her age, but she's a pretty young woman. She has 65 film credits to her name already. She's quite prolific. But if you haven't seen her, she was in The Edge of 17, which is kind of like a coming of age
The
story.
Edge of 17.
I did too. That's why I wanted to use it. I think it's a little underrated. It's a really good movie. It
came out at the same time as Lady Bird. It was one of those where two movies come out around the same time that are kind of similar themes. I liked Edge of 17 better. I thought it was more enjoyable, personally.
I liked Lady Bird very much. I'm a Greta Gerwig fan. I really loved that film. But I would say Edge of 17 is also very good, as worth watching for sure. And she does a very good job in it. And but she's done a lot of things, like I said. She also did True Grit, which is a very different style.
She was like a kid in that. That's when you say she has 65 credits, it doesn't surprise me because she was a baby when she was not a baby, but she was very young.
Did a good job. You know what I mean? Like you remember her, I feel like that's a standout, especially for a younger actress like that. And she also did one that we love here on the pod, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So really fun one where you can hear that it's her. I think her voice is clear enough. You can tell that it's her. So she does Gwen Stacy and we love that. So next up, Jack O'Connell. He plays Remick. He's like our master vampire guy. He's the oldie moldy of the bunch. He's been in a lot of stuff, and I also listed several here because he also has quite a range. I'm like just very impressed with Ryan Coogler's casting as I went through this. Of course, while I was watching it, but like as I'm kind of reconning on the things that they've done, I'm like, oh yeah, they did that. Like, very impressive resumes, these people, for sure. And he did Unbroken. He was recently in Back to Black, which is another great example of a voice that sounds much deeper and mature. And Lady Chatterley's Lover. It's a very rom-com, but it's like a classical rom-com. It's based on a novel. Ferrari, which is like an action-y movie. So he's done a lot of stuff as well, and he does a really good job in this. And it's certainly different than other things that he's done before.
I knew that I recognized the one that probably isn't very different from what he's done before is Eden Lake, which I've mentioned on the pod before as being a very
Yeah.
bleak horror film where I don't recommend that to most people unless you want to watch. It's not even, it's less horror. Take The Strangers and make it really actual heartbreaking stakes and kind of brutal, and like it's a better version of The Strangers, I think, because it's not even strangers. It's basically like a bunch of teenage punks in England that are just like have shitty parents and are terrorizing this couple that's on vacation. But you see them throughout the whole movie, and I think he's one of the teenagers in that. So he was probably very young because that was probably a decade plus ago. But if I remember correctly, he's very good in that.
Interesting. So you said you don't recommend it to everybody, but like, would you recommend that I watch it specifically?
It's
That
one of those
face.
ones where you're going to
That,
have to go into
ooh.
it knowing that you're going to be miserable for most of this film. Like,
I mean,
it
to be
is.
fair, I watch a lot of really sad movies. Is that why it's miserable? Just because it's sad, or it's miserable because it's like
It's
painful to?
bleak. Bleak
Yeah.
is a better word than sad. It's
Okay.
just, yeah.
Just bleak. Okay. Well, TBD. We'll get there, maybe. And then we have Wunmi Mosaku, who plays Annie, and she's been in a bunch of things and almost everything I haven't seen. And it's annoying to me because a bunch of them are on my list, but I haven't watched yet. So maybe I'll pick one of those for the remainder of the month. But she was in a series that got a lot of acclaim, Lovecraft Country.
Janelle likes that, yeah.
Yeah, I heard great things, and it is like physically on the list. Need to watch it. Deadpool versus Wolverine. We do see her in that, and then just like a ton of
Oh,
TV
yeah,
stuff
she's
as
like
well.
the guard at the.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's the
yeah, yeah,
guard.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and she does like again, like that's a very big cast, and you remember her from that. She stands out.
Is
So
she
I
also
would love
in
to watch more
Loki
of her.
then?
Yeah,
I think
she
that's the
is.
same guard. Okay, yeah. I was
Yep.
like, I feel like I saw her somewhere else. Yes.
Yeah. So I highly recommend watching some of her stuff. She's in a lot of good stuff and she's in a lot of stuff. But I haven't seen nearly enough of it. So definitely recommend her. She does a great job here. Jamie Lawson, who plays Perline, and she did The Batman. To be clear, that's the Robert Pattinson one. And she also did The Woman King, which is yet another one that's on my list that I haven't watched yet. That's a Viola Davis led one that's really supposed to be incredible as well. So, anyway, more of these that I want to go watch ultimately. Omar Miller, who plays Cornbread, who I like. I just fucking love that name as a character name, and he just like, don't ask me why. He embodies it perfectly. You're like, yeah, that checks out. That's
See,
Cornbread.
what else is he in? Because I recognized his face, but I didn't
Yeah,
look up his filmography.
he's been in a bunch of stuff as well. He was in Ballers. He was in Eight. Ballers is an HBO series that got
Mm-hmm.
really popular. It's really good. I think The Rock is on the lead of that. Anyway, I'm sorry, Dwayne Johnson. And he is in 8 Mile, and then he's in a ton of
Oh, that's where I
TV.
know him from.
Yeah,
That's so weird that that's my frame of reference, but I do like 8 Mile. I don't think it's. I think it exceeded expectations. So,
exceeded expectations.
but
Is like,
he's
yeah,
in
I think
yeah
what you would say.
Eminem or B Rabbit's crew in that. Yeah,
And a bunch of other stuff too. So
cool.
he's really good. Delroy Lindo plays Delta Slim, which is another name that I just love. Gone in 60 Seconds, which is like, do y'all remember him from Gone in 60 Seconds? He's so good. That's one of like my favorite movies. I love that movie.
I only remember him from Congo, which was a terrible 90s film based on a
Oh,
Michael Crichton novel. We talked about it, I think, during Jurassic Park. But yeah, it wasn't a good movie. It was like
it was
ASL,
not. It was not great,
Gorillas.
but I do remember that now.
Yeah, Tim
Yeah.
Curry's in it. But I was like, I know this guy from something. And I went all the way back to the early 90s and found the movie I remember him from. And it was Congo.
To be fair, I
Sadly.
think Tim Curry just said yes to everything in the 90s. So it's like there's a hodgepodge of like really good stuff and not so good stuff. That's one of them that's not great. But did Get Shorty as well. He did Defy Bloods as well. So like these are all ones that are really well received. And he just like he steals the show when he's on camera for sure.
He's really good in this, yeah.
He's so good. Lee Jun Lee, who plays Grace Chow, she's been in several things lately. She's I like that she gets a little bit more centered here. She becomes critical in later action, as we'll find, but she's been in kind of supporting roles in a bunch of things. Babylon, Sex Life, which is a Netflix movie or TV show that I've told y'all about before on the pod. If you just want to watch people have sex under, weird circumstances, that's the show for you.
What's the name of the show
Uh,
now?
Sex Life. It's
I was
very
looking at my
easy.
notes and now I'm like, sex. Like,
Wait a
okay,
minute, sex. What do I
got
watch?
it.
Where do I
Thank
can
you.
be? Yeah, yeah. It's not quite porn because obviously it's not real, but like
That's like my favorite kind of porn.
it's
It's not
very
quite porn.
close. You know
So
what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Florida Man, she's in. And then I actually really liked this reference. If any of you are weird like me and you have a Paramount Plus subscription, I watch a lot of movies, y'all. I'll
Anybody?
tell you.
Anybody?
Anybody? It's me and one other guy
We
in the
have
whole
it
world.
during NFL season and then we cancel it every
Mm.
year.
Yeah, I have it like there's weird films on there. And then there's also like random TV shows and certain things. Anyway, whatever. It's called Why Women Kill. And it's a weirdly it's not an incredible TV series, but it's like a fun watch. If you want to see women kill their husbands and partners and friends because they
Sounds fun.
deserved it, really, is what it is. And then Peter Tremanus? I don't know how I would say. I mean, I'm guessing here. He's a singer, though. He is in the band July Talk. He plays like one of the supporting little vampire crew to start. His name's Bert in this one.
I didn't
But
think you would get this far down the cast because I feel like Bert's not a super main character. I mean, he's
to
one
be
of the
fair, I
three
only have
main
two more.
vampires. Okay.
To be fair, I
So
only have
I thought
two
this
more.
would be one that I could call out because Janelle and I love July Talk and we saw
Yeah.
them live, I want to say 3 years ago at this point at Antone's downtown in Austin. And small club, but he came out in the crowd and was like playing guitar a foot away from us, which was really cool. So I was watching this and went, where do I know that guy from? And then he started playing
Yeah.
and do his little droopy shoulder thing. And I heard his voice when he does that deep thing, because on the records, he has a super deep, husky voice. And then his wife now is the female singer, not the one that's in this movie. He's married to his co-singer in the band, and they sort of play off each other really well of his voice and her very sweet, delicate voice. So check out.
Yeah,
July
he's
Talk.
somewhere between a baritone and a bass. He's very down there, and he has a distinctive voice, certainly. And I did know him, hit some of their music, but I didn't recognize that this was him. I don't know if it was the costume or what until I like looked into it later. But his voice sounded similar. I was like, what do I know him from? So, no other prior credits, just his own music videos. So
that
there's
first
that.
line where he said, and this isn't really a spoiler, but he says, "Hey, baby," and that's super like gruff,
gravelly
that
tone. Yeah,
I was like, I think that's that guy, and
yeah, he has a distinctive voice for sure. And then he's supported another vampire friend of ours, Lola Kirk. She's Joan, and I call her out. One, she becomes critical later, but two, like she does a ton of stuff. Like she's like kind of that character support actor who can play a lot of things as well. She was in Gone Girl. I know we talked about her there. She's the girl in the Ozarks who meets her at the pool and like robs her later. That's her. She's also done Mozart in the Jungle, which is a long run series that is very musical. And as we will find, she is musical. And then she was in Mistress America and a few, like just a ton of other stuff. She's done a lot of stuff and she's also really talented. I didn't know that she was at all musical until I saw Mozart in the Jungle. And she did a lot of her own playing there. And here she plays and sings and is on the soundtrack. So very talented, cool lady. And we're going to pause here actually, because my last little character that I would like to share, you need to wait to watch this to find out. We're going to warn you now. Turn around. Don't drown. It's spoiler time. So last one, Buddy Guy. Mr. Buddy Guy, blues legend, plays older preacher boy. And we see him quite a bit down the road. He does pretty good. He's not an actor for sure. He's mostly done music appearances and concert appearances. I've seen him live several times. He's getting up there. I was impressed that he was in this film for this reason, because the last time I saw him in concert, I took someone as a gift actually, and he was I think he played for a solid 25 minutes before he bounced out and let them all finish the show for him, because he's getting up there. But I was proud of him, and I was happy to see him because he is an incredible blues guitarist. And it's a really nice homage to Preacher Boy at the end of the film, for
That's a
sure.
good call out. I would also, you mentioned you kind of have to wait for this, and very literally you have to wait for it. If you are still here and past the spoiler warning, the only thing I will tell you guys, if you're still debating going to see this, is stay after the credits, because there is a obscenely long credit break before you get to the buddy guy scene that I
Yeah,
don't know
it's pretty
why they
long.
did that. We could talk about that when we get there, but just know to stay after the credits because there's a pivotal scene, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty long. And again, if you're still here, you probably don't need this, but a very quick plot summary. Trying to leave their troubled lives behind, twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. Dun, dun, dun.
They don't spoil the vampire piece in the descriptor, but they do it in the trailer. Yeah,
Yeah. And
interesting.
IMDb's claim to fame is spoilers. So interesting.
I just find it weird, like, Coogler said that his two biggest influences on this, I know you can guess one of them for sure. What film would you guess that we've already covered on the pod that kind of makes sense given what Sinners is about?
Salem's Lot.
We haven't covered Salem's Lot on the pod. Think about a
Oh,
movie
that's
that
true.
we've actually covered.
Um,
And it's pretty obvious, same subject matter.
in terms of vampires?
Yeah.
Oh, Dust versus Dawn.
From Dusk Till Dawn, yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
You
that
know what
I
I
would
was
watch
thinking
that
of?
movie too.
I was
Dusk
thinking of
versus
our ep title because we were like
Crimson
Dusk
versus
versus
Dusk. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, Crimson versus
Oh,
Dusk.
from Dusk Till Dawn. Yes, I
Yes.
didn't know. I read actually that Salem's Lot was one of his bigger influences, so that's interesting. But you're right. That is I mean, that's a very similar energy, very similar
And
vibes.
that too, same exact thing where people went to see From Dusk Till Dawn thinking it was, sort of a Bonnie and Clyde, like serial killer, hitmen, whatever they are, on the lam from the law. And then halfway in, it turns into a vampire movie. That's kind of what this feels like. So even if
Yeah.
you know it's a horror movie, I go back to that of I kind of wish they had kept some of it a little more under wraps of not telling us there's going to be vampires 40 minutes in.
Yeah, I think again that would be a fun experiment to run of like how would this feel to watch it and not realize that was where it was going. But I do think they do a good job even with that, even with the trailer maybe giving some of that away. I do think they do a really good job of setting the scene enough that you kind of forget actually that you're about to watch a horror movie.
Yeah.
You're very immersed into this environment and these people's lives and setting up this, this party that takes all day. It's very all engrossing, I would say. And so I feel like it takes you out of it for a second a little bit. And then it's kind of a surprise. Like you're like, "Oh yeah, okay. I'm watching a
Oh
horror
yeah,
movie."
that's what I'm here
But
for. Yeah.
right, but it is a little bit of an, "Oh yeah, that's what we're doing here" moment. So I think that says a lot about the setting of this stage and how well done it is.
Yeah, that's a great call out. I wrote down that the first 30 or 40 minutes of this is such a character building masterclass of here's how, if you're making a horror movie, you can get the audience to care about every single, not just the main two or three characters, but all 8 to 10 of the core cast, because
Yeah.
it takes us so long. I didn't time it, I didn't look at my phone, but like, it takes so long to even get to the introduction of the vampires, to your point, where you've seen the Smoke and Stack come back. They're interacting with their cousin. We see what he's about. We see him interacting with his parents in that situation. We see them interacting with the townsfolk. We see them
Mhm.
interacting with their friends from the past and bringing them to the party. Like, they make you care about every single one of them by giving you just these little nuggets of conversation and interactions and really just emotional dialogue and giving you this whole backstory, but just also giving it enough time to breathe before we get to the scary stuff.
Yeah, and I think you get again really invested in the characters, right? Like you really want to know how this night's going to turn out for everyone. And you spend enough time, like there's something about the pacing of this film that is really well done. And again, we're talking about how it's set up, but it's like you don't feel like that took too long. You know what I mean? You don't feel like, oh, I'm spending too much time with Delta Slim. I'm spending too much time with Preacher Boy. I'm spending too much time with the, insert character here. You feel like you spent just the right amount of time with them to understand who they are, understand how they relate to Smoke and Stack, and to care about them at all, to really
Everything
just
up
give a
until
shit.
the party starts is literally perfectly paced, would not
Yeah.
change a goddamn thing.
Uh-uh.
Everything until the party starts is perfect.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And then shit goes awry and it's perfect in a different way.
I
But
would well, okay. So while we're because I'm gonna say right up front, this isn't a 10 out of 10 film. I think it's really fucking good, but I think there's a couple scenes at the party that probably could have been. I don't think we need as many dialogue heavy scenes at the party. Like I would rather we get to when we
mm,
introduce the vampires, we get to the action beats a
mm,
little quicker. Um, there's like a scene where Sammy and Mary are interacting, and she's like, "You're little
mhm.
Sammy. Let's catch up." I don't know that has to. It sure it adds to. There's more connections, but we know that this is a horror movie. People are gonna fucking die. So like, there's a couple
I
things I would
think
change
that's
at
the
the party.
horror person in you
Yeah,
though. A little bit, a little bit. Just like cuz you do know where it's going and you're also like you enjoy that part and you're excited for it. Meanwhile, like I'm not a huge horror person and don't get me wrong, I had a great time with the rest of us, like just to be clear, but I'm still interested in all the character moments. And I think the other thing about that too, for me, is the way that they shot that was really compelling. I really liked watching all the movement around that room,
mm-hmm.
and feeling the characters sweat and
Yeah.
rush
It's
and
like
stress
immersive. Yeah.
and immersive and listening to music and what's happening in this corner, what's happening in that corner. And just even just again, the way that it was shot was really interesting to watch them move through the space and move through the world. And I think like while not perfect, I'm sure there are quote goofs in this a fair amount. I think like it doesn't ever break for you in that you're like, oh, I that doesn't fit. Nothing like doesn't fit. But I could see it being trimmed a little there at the beginning, but I was still very interested in all those characters'
I
interactions at that point.
think to make it make more sense, because I don't want to skip too far ahead, but what I will say is I think my issue upon a second watch with the middle act is that the last act is so short in comparison.
Mm,
Once shit starts to go down and they know they're dealing with vampires, I thought that would stretch for longer, as it feels like the movie takes its time until it doesn't, and then everything is a mile a minute for the last like 15-20 minutes. So I would have like on rewatch, I would have cut a little bit from there to give more time for that last act to breathe, as opposed to just like now there's vampires, now we're holed up, now they're attacking, and now the movie's over. Like it's very quick.
that's interesting. I think it's an interesting observation. I've only watched it the once, so something about the pacing the first time through feels pretty good to me. It didn't stand out to me that way. I wonder if I would feel the same way on a second watch, if maybe I'm impatient to see the action or something. But um, I wonder too how much of that is that that's not the crux of the matter. Like the action itself is not to me the point of the
Oh
story. Like
no,
it
no,
is and it
no.
isn't. You know what I mean, right? Like so you want to get there, you want to see it. I'm not saying you don't. Um, but more important is all the subtext.
Mm-hmm.
Like of what all of this is about. I think that's maybe why it's quicker because you're like, okay, we got here and I get it. I get why this happened. But also the action is very well done. So I mean, I could watch it for longer for sure. But I do think it's very well done. So like, I mean, I think like we said, the pacing to get here is really good. You get a lot of backstory that I do think is important to touch on. Like Smoke and Stack have come from, they're from here, they're from Mississippi, but they left and they got this whole different life experience where they went to war and they fought for their country and they came home and they saw opportunity in the Chicago outfit and they stayed in Chicago for a long time. The Chicago outfit is Al Capone's like the name of the mafia, that mafia, right? So they make reference to Capone a couple of times, but like there's an implication that they left on maybe dangerous terms. So they kind of like milked that opportunity for as much as they could to then like come home and really make something of themselves. And I think that's very intentional because they want to be with their people. You know, you get that feeling as soon as they're here that like they're coming home. You know, these are their people, this is their community, this is their family. And it's a really like it's a largely Black community, yes, but it's like a diverse group of people. And I like the way that we show that here in the film without with it making sense, right? Like with it making sense with the time and the place that we're in, and yet you're still able to be as representative as possible. So I thought that was an interesting. It's very easy to make this only Black people in one corner and only white people in this other corner, and then never the two never the two shall pass, right? So like I like how they did a good job of balancing that and bringing all those characters in and out.
Yeah, they also have the family, the Chinese family that's able to sort of walk between the two. If
Yeah,
they
they're the ones who are bridging the gap between white people and Black people, and it's interesting because people are racist toward them, but they're less racist toward them, right? Like
Yeah.
they're the lesser of two evils in the eyes of the white people of this community, which is
Yeah.
obviously
It's
shitty.
kind of the
But
same. I mean, obviously not making light of patterns, but it's kind of the same as when we covered "Do the Right Thing."
mm-hmm.
The Asian family in that,
There's
it's
a
like
bridge, right? Like they're the
yep,
bridge. Yep, yep,
yeah.
yep. I think that's very true. Good
So
call.
yeah, diverse with a lot of different diverse characters, and yeah, can we talk about the music in this? Because I feel like it's
I
hard
feel
to
like
talk about this without the music.
I've been like kind of avoiding it because then I feel like I will only talk about that. But yes, we absolutely have to talk about the music of this film. And it's funny, fun fact, you guys, like we were debating, is this a musical movie for like 3 business days about the offline. And I think what I'll say again is that what I had in mind when I'm talking about that is different than this movie. What I think about this movie is absolutely true is that the music is critical to the look, feel, vibe, story of this film, and even more so when you read into like how it was made and with the intention that was given, and just the focus on it. And there's one scene in particular that we'll talk about, but at a high level, like again, this is the 5th collab with the composer and Ryan Coogler and Michael B. Jordan and again the composer is Ludwig Göransson. I'm probably butchering his last name, but he does incredible work here, and the music tells a story in its own right, and it's a bunch of different styles. To be clear, like there are so many different tethers across the music that's in this that it touches a lot of different areas.
Yeah, I think I was trying to explain to you of like I consider a musical a movie where the story is sung in a way where the characters are expressing their thoughts, their feelings through song, and it's almost dialogue put to song.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas a movie like this, with I'm with you of this is a musical film without being a musical. It's the music is crucial to it. I feel like there's a lot of biopics that are kind of like that, or movies with fictional bands like Josie and the Pussycats, or That Thing You Do, where it's the music is there are original songs that are being played, but it's not that the dialogue is being expressed through song. And in this, especially on a rewatch, the music just permeates so many scenes, not just in the score and the way that a lot of them build and crescendo, but Sammy especially, like his multiple scenes of singing in front of his cousin for the first time, and him like Michael B. Jordan's reaction to that, and just getting like super excited, like we're gonna like being impressed and proud, but also like
Yeah.
we're gonna make a killing tonight. And you can't talk about this without the two major, I think, most impactful scenes, which is when he does his song in front of the crowd. What was your reaction on first watch to that cultural opening up all these characters from the past and future and the way that played out?
Well, one, that scene is fucking incredible. So I think we just to pause here briefly to incorporate something that I think makes that scene incredible is how it's shot, right?
Oh yeah.
So this movie is shot with a few different types of cameras and lenses, and so part of it is shot for IMAX, and so it's on an IMAX camera, and some of it's shot in Panavision 70 millimeter. This scene does both, as well as several scenes throughout. So when you're seeing the aspect ratio like kind of change in this film, it's very intentional. And the way that it is shot was really complicated. It was like a 2-month planning session to shoot this one scene that you're talking about. And they call it the music montage scene. And if you haven't seen this yet, you'll know it when you see it. And I think this is a combination. And I think it was Goranson who said this in an interview, because I listened to a couple of interviews about this. And I think he said it where he was saying, like, this was 2 months of planning and this was everyone, right? Like, this is the director, this is cinematographer, this is Preacher Boy's character, this is, Smoke and Stack, and everybody has to be in perfect alignment, and you have to move through this room in a very specific way. And some of the audio is being recorded live on set as well. So this was like super fucking complicated to shoot. It's not the thing you're noticing while you're watching it, but I think you are noticing that you feel immersed. And I think you said that earlier, and that is like the perfect word, I think, because that scene, it's almost like an out of body experience. It's incredibly well shot. The music is profound, and it complements the story perfectly, because this is alluded to earlier, where it's like there are some people that are given such talent, such innate, soul crushing, so powerful a talent that it calls down the devil, right? It calls down evil to you. It attracts the spiritual world to you in some way, right? And then you see this happen where it's pulling all this beautiful history, all this beautiful musical power, both past, present, and future, but it is also bringing this like threat, right? It's what calls this threat to you. And yeah, I can't say enough about this scene. It's
I have
incredible.
8 thoughts going through my head to your point of just, I want to talk about this scene forever, because I feel like there was a risk of it being gimmicky. Like, it could have, somebody could have said, what if this thing where you can bring all these musicians, past, present, future, together, and we shot a scene, and it's kind of like, oh, look, there's a DJ. Oh, look, there's B-boys. Oh, look, there's an electric guitar. Here's, dancers from China.
Here's
like,
a DJ.
there's so much shit. It could have been really poorly done if they hadn't put the work in, like you said. But I enjoy that at the end of the day, not just with introing it at the start of the film and letting us know, and they bring back that kind of story during this scene to explain it again. It figures into the plot. It also makes logical sense of why this vampire, who's been around for centuries, is saying, you have this ability to bring these things to life in a way, and I want to see my ancestors. It makes fucking logical sense, right?
Right. And I think it touches on the ancestry of so many things, right? Like, it touches on the ancestry of communities that they are paying homage to, and that others will pay homage to in the future. So like, what this music is inspired by is so many things. It's African music, it's Native American music, it's Irish music, it's music that's being defined and built literally now in this time. Like, this is the advent of jazz and blues. Like, if you are not a jazz and blues fan, this is the time. This is when it's becoming America's art form. This is America's gift to the world. And you can't ignore that originated here in this, right, in the South. And it's inspired by so many things, of course, but it's this manifestation of that art form that I think is almost wholly owned by the Black community and their history and their tether to their own musical history as well. And I think that gets overlooked sometimes. And it's such a celebration of that right now and in this scene. And I think it's so incredibly well done.
It's Delta said, to be fair, I've seen this 2 times as many as you have, 2 times as many times as you have. That was a weird sentence to say. But Delta Slim has a speech where he says, this music that we make, it's not like everything that's been forced onto us in this country. We brought this with us. Like, this is from home. So that'll segue into kind of my next point, which is later, there's that second big musical scene where it's sort of the Irish jig component. It doesn't go on for as long, and it's not as extravagant, but it's sort of like a dancing component, and everyone's singing along, and all these people who are now vampires that have been brought into this group, including Stack and Mary and all these other characters, are now, they know all of this. They're all sharing these memories. They know all the words to the songs. They're dancing around. They seem to be happy. And is that a metaphor? Because the way I read it on first watch was, this is a movie about assimilation. They don't want to exterminate how, we see the Choctaw early. Good for you, Choctaw people, getting the fuck out of there at dusk when there's vampires involved. So good on the Choctaw. But this is not
knew. They were like, we got the
later,
vibes,
y'all,
man.
have fun. You don't want our help? Deuces. But we show them, and this is not a comparison to what white people did when they got to America and they were essentially trying to exterminate a race of people. I think this movie is more about assimilation, and this vampire saying like, no, you come in and be like me, we'll all share, we'll become one sort of mind meld of culture. And I think I was talking to Janelle about it last night, where that's kind of the downside of this whole melting pot thing, is it's awesome that we get so many different cultures in America, but at the same time, it feels like you lose a bit of your history because now everyone has access to it. It doesn't feel like it's yours anymore. Does that kind of make sense?
It does make sense. I think, though, we don't really melt. That's kind of also part of the problem, right? Is like we're trying to, which has its own downfalls as well, to your point. But also we don't really, and we hold on to our various prejudices. But I think you're calling out something really important here. And I want to take a quick step back to the prior music scene to allude to that, which is that, yes, we brought this from home, right? We brought this from Africa. This is our art. But it is now coupled with the experience of, and I would go from assimilation to colonization. This is our culture and ourself being colonized. And so now what we have added to the music that we brought from home is the trauma. The blues is born of trauma, right? It's born of this trauma of of enslaving the Black man and the Black woman and the Black community. That is what it is born from. Of like, this is multi-generational trauma that this community can and does feel in its bones, coupled with, again, colonization from Africa, but also Africa in many ways had and can be a place of freedom. So to have your life, you're being colonized, is the thing that they have in common with the Irish, right? And so when this hundreds of year old vampire is alluding to the first colonization of Ireland, that's his pitch, right? He's pitching to them, I know what you're going through. I've been there. I've done that. It happened to me. They did it to me. And if you come here with me, like, we can both be free. We can both be free of this American shackle of racism. And you're going to live well beyond this. And you're going to be powerful. And you're going to be able to kill the people who have hurt you. Like, how appealing does that feel at this point for a lot of these people? And it feels almost euphoric for the people who make that choice, and then you see that kind of evolve for them. So I think that history ties directly to this Irish community and why they would relate to one another in any way.
For sure. I totally agree with that. I think those parallels are for sure true. One thing I don't understand, because I think this segues nicely, is I'm a little perplexed on rewatch of the vampire mentality, I guess, in this, because we said they're all kind of a hive mind. They're all sharing the same thoughts, memories, and all that. They continue to tell us throughout the story that, yes, we want to be one family. We want this to be everyone is equal. Everything is fair. Everything is great. But then throughout the movie, they're being fucking assholes. Like, they are scaring people. They are murdering. They're talking. They're like, if you don't come out and join us, we're going to go kill your daughter instead. They are not being good people. So this whole logic, and granted, they're vampires, but it's weird how they kind of go back and forth. And I guess maybe when you're a hive mind and you have 40 people whose thoughts and opinions you share, there's going to be a little bit of a conflict there, right? But I'm thinking forward to when
there's an idiot in the group every time, you know.
Yeah, there's like one guy that's being a real dick right now, or like when he's talking shit to Sammy before the sun comes up about how he's going to kill him, and he's like fake drowning him and trying to scare him. It's like, why are you doing that if you want him on your team? Like, you're just going to bite him and then he's going to join your squad. Just get it over with, and then maybe you wouldn't have burned up. But when Annie gets bit and Smoke has to stake her, Mary and Stack do show emotion. They are upset
Yeah.
that she has died, even though they are both vampires now. They are upset that Annie has died, the Annie they know has died, but also she's not going to be able to live with us forever. So it shows they do have this emotional component. But that was one weird thing I was a little conflicted on rewatch of why are they being assholes aside from it being a horror film.
Well, I think the horror film factor is valid. I think a couple of things here. I think one obviously I don't know the answer. But I would say I think a couple of things that it makes me think of is one, I want to call out, I think that's one of the many this is one of the many things that makes the Ryan Coogler version of a vampire movie very unique. Right. Like, so to what we said earlier, like there are a lot of vampire tropes in this. There are some like basic rules of vampires that stay true here, but there are also several that don't, right? In traditional vampire books and movies, you only know what somebody's thinking if you drink their blood, right? So like you don't have like a hive mind situation. You have a connection with your maker more often than not, right? And
Mm.
like that's the big like Anne Rice school of thought of like you are forever bonded with your maker. They take a different tact here, and I think that's again like partially because of what they are selling is community, and what they are selling is freedom from this horrible community, right? But I think the other reason that they would be so aggressive about it is because they have access now to these other memories. They have this access to this history. And again, take Remick, for example. He's hundreds of years old. Like, think of all the things that he's seen and that he's done. And there are aspects of that that I think they are desensitized to probably the bad, and the good stuff seems really appealing. So, like, have you ever wanted something for somebody so bad you kind of want to shake them, or you want them to do something so bad you kind of want to shake them because you're like, God, you're being so stupid, or like, obviously this is going to be amazing, you're going to love it. Like, yes, go skydiving, it's the most incredible experience of your life, and they're terrified, and you're like, no, I promise you won't regret it. This feels like that to me, where they're like,
Yeah.
we know you want this, we know you need this, and we're gonna, if we have to bully you into doing it so that you do the quote right thing, then we will. That may be an oversimplification, but I think it's maybe part of what they're getting from that connection, that they're like, you just don't understand, and if only you would, so now I have to make you do it.
I just wonder if maybe we just needed to get Remick out of the hive mind mix. Maybe he had just been around for too long. He had an old school way of thinking. He needed to peace out. And then everyone else, maybe that would have been a better
Maybe they
hive
would have
mind
chilled
without.
out. Maybe it would have been a little
Well,
bit more kumbaya. No, I'm just
like
kidding.
look at the look at the post credit. Like, I mean, we referenced it earlier when they come back to visit Sammy, and we there's
Yeah.
more we can talk about, but I just want to get here. When they come back to visit him, they seem pretty happy and pretty relaxed. They're living a good life. I'm sure as vampires they still have to feed. That's one thing I missed during this was,
I was gonna say,
do the
I think they're
vampires have
still,
to feed, or are they just
yeah.
converting people?
No, I think they do have to feed. And I think that's the thing to understand about, there's a neutrality here with Preacher Boy, and there's like, they talk about that, right? Like, and he basically says like, that's why you're good. That's why you're alive, right? But I think that's very intentional. And I think even though they seem like cool and chill, and they're supposed to have like late 80s, early 90s vibes at this point, um, I think they do a good job of still feeling threatening, right? Like, it still feels vaguely threatening. It still feels a little bit dangerous. And I think that's intentional, because even if you, and this is true of every other vampire movie ever, right? Even if they're charming and you want to love them, they're still murderers. Like, they still can kill you. They still want to attack people. They still want to drink blood. And so I think he gets a pass, of course, as they talk about, but I think they do a good job in like a very subtle way of feeling still kind of threatening, even though that's true,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah, I'd buy into that. And he's still, Stack, even though he's a vampire, is keeping a promise to his brother and giving Sammy the choice. He does say, we can let you
Yeah.
live forever. You can keep making music, blah blah blah. But Sammy just says like, nah, I've seen enough of this place, and then they just hang out, and it's very mellow, and like it's kind of a heartwarming way to end the picture, honestly. But
And I think that's another unique point, right? Of like, there are only so many ways these kinds of movies can go. You know what I mean? And vampire movies specifically, right? Like, everybody's dying, or everyone has become a vampire, or somewhere in between. There's not often a happy ending unless you talk Twilight, which is
I was going to
ridiculous the way
ask,
that
you
that worked
mentioned
out.
Anne Rice earlier. What would Stephanie Meyer have to say about this motion picture? Is she on board?
I think she would be on board with the ending. Yeah, because the ending is like a relatively happy ending. She fucking did some gymnastics with her vampires to make that have a happy ending. You know what I mean? She did some crazy shit that makes no fucking sense to try and make sure that all her vampires could have a happy ending, you know. So yeah, I think she would jive with that part for
She's on
sure.
board with like, okay, the ending. Michael B. Jordan and Haley Steinfeld get to have sex forever. The end.
Yes, that is
Stephanie
that
Meyer,
is
yeah.
like her YA version of this, not for sure, for sure. But yeah, they didn't sparkle, so she would be out on that. You know, there were no
Yeah.
sparkling vampires; they were just in flames, so she wouldn't love that.
I feel like we talked. I want to finish up one more thing on sort of the music and the sound in this, but then I want to get back to some. You had mentioned shots earlier and the visuals, and I feel like we're spending so much time on the auditory piece that we haven't dug
We
deep
could do
into a
five
couple.
pods on just the
I
like
know
music part. To be
it's
honest,
insane,
it's pretty
but even
awesome.
not just the music, but the sound.
Yeah,
The scene where Delta Slim is giving a speech in the car ride, and they're playing the sound effects of kind of what happened in the scenario of what he would have heard.
yeah.
They're playing it all out, and again, it could be gimmicky in the wrong hands, but it's done in just the right way where it doesn't feel like silly for a series. I'm not making like the situation he's talking about is very serious, but I think trying to make that work of we're going to play what you would hear if you were there, in theory, doesn't sound great. But yeah, Ryan Coogler again nails it, and his sound folks, you know.
Yeah, I think what's interesting again is that the way that they recorded it, you know, there's a few different ways. I mean, they recorded some of this in the studio and they recorded some of this on the set, which is even more
Hmm.
impressive. So I think that's, you know, there's a lot of things about the music that wouldn't really come through as well if it wasn't so well recorded. And I mean, they were so thoughtful with the writing and the way that it was produced. I mean, there are several like blues artists involved in the making of this film. So we mentioned the composer a few times. Him and his wife were the main producers of the music, and she was in charge of shepherding in the blues aspect and making sure that that was well represented. And she was like, I just felt like a shepherd of these different artists coming in and adding their contributions. And so there's a bunch of great R&B music producers involved in this, Raphael Sadiq, Boo Mitchell, and there's a bunch of songwriters who come in and contribute to this as well. But also, like, speaking to the sound, the guitar that they chose was really intentional. The guitar that Preacher Boy plays and holds so the whole time is a 1932 Dobro Cyclops resonator guitar, and that silver part is the resonator. And I highly recommend you watch his interview on this, which is way better than the version I'm going to tell you. But it's essentially before amplifiers, right? Like before amplifiers, you wanted to expand the sound of your acoustic guitar a little bit if you could. And so that's where resonators came in. And so he purposely found these. He found three of them globally. There was like one in London, one in Nashville, one in somewhere else. And that's what he composed 90% of the score on.
Hmm.
And so I think that's really intentional with how you hear the music played. And Sammy's guitar is, oh, they try actively not to like level it up. It's not like super amplified. They're trying to make it sound as authentic as possible and how it would have sounded, right, if you were in this environment without being, you know, amplified too much. So yeah,
Hmm.
just again, speaking to the sound here, like every part of how it came together was very intentional and really well done.
That's cool. I learned something about music history today. Well, I when the credits came up last night and I was watching this, the first name that stood out to me after the ends, the hidden scene, was the name Lars Ulrich. I was like, oh, Lars
Yep.
Ulrich like contributed to this, and apparently, yeah, like they brought in, to your point, a ton of musicians, and they
Mm-hmm.
really, and I guess Ryan Coogler, when he was thinking about the score for this, said he was picturing Metallica songs, not like the super heavy metal, like let's fucking go balls to the wall right off the bat,
Yeah.
but the song One, which starts out as an acoustic intro and it slowly builds to this batshit crazy crescendo. And you pick up on that when you watch some of the scenes in this. So they start out as these twangy guitar tracks and eventually get into just the crazy. Even the song that, what's the girl's name? The girl that Sammy's into?
I think it's, well,
I might be mixing her up.
Perline,
Perline.
Perline.
Her track starts out as sort of like
Incredible.
her serenading them, and by the end, it is just this insane song of like the what is it? Something Pale Moon but
Mm-hmm.
she's singing, everyone's stomping. That's when the shootings happen. That scene, we've talked about two other incredible music scenes. That one, I think, is number 3 on my list.
I think you really hear in that one like that collaborative jam vibe to this, even more so than some of the others. Like that one, that particular song really comes through. She wasn't planning on performing, right? That's not why she's there. And so again, I think in a way it contributes to the story, and you really do hear that guitar come through, and that like quote twang, that slide. It's that metal slide. And what was interesting is that um, Ludwig was saying that he also, the thing that inspired him to play guitar was Metallica. Like he
Hmm,
heard him, and I think he might even have said the same song. So I'm not sure if they were like vibing to that degree, but
interesting.
he said that. And like he was talking about how the slides used to be made out of broken beer bottles. You would just break them off, and that's how you get that slide sound, that like twang to it. And so that was very much had to be a part of this because he was like, that's what one of the many things that inspired me was that
Nice.
song.
Well, before we go back to the visual portion, I wanted to call out that I realized I didn't want to be the whitest dude ever and just be like, I know Lars Ulrich, I'm going to write his name down. So I was like, yes, I like Metallica, but the people who are more into blues, there's just a who's who, and here you already mentioned Buddy Guy, but Bobby Rush, Rhiannon Giddens, Cedric Burnside, like there's a bunch of best in class artists for this genre of music, which I think is super cool for them to bring them in and either feature them on screen or just feature them heavily. And when you look at the musician list on this, it's 30 people. It's
Oh yeah.
insanity. Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild how many people are involved. And I think also like again, the breadth and depth has to be there because of that big scene partially, right? Like that big scene that's the music montage is an homage to so many types of music. So like to really pull in the right people, you've got to get people who are really experts in their areas as well beyond just the blues, and in ways that complement it. And like that scene, one of the things that I forgot to mention that really resonates with me is like that scene reminded me so much of like a music history lesson, and a really tangible tactical one. And there's a couple of documentaries that do this really well, but a place that does that really well is the MIM, which I know I've told you about in Phoenix. It's that musical instrument museum.
Yep.
And that museum, you could spend 2 fucking days in that museum. It's insane. And just in the guitar section alone, like they have one of the oldest guitars in the world in that museum. But like it is a couple football fields long of instruments all over the world. And that scene was like a veritable rainbow of some of these instruments in one place. So it was really beautiful, going back to the shot as well. Like the visual of it and the aesthetic of it was really beautiful as well.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out next time we're in Phoenix. But
So good. If you've never been, guys, if you're going to Phoenix, squeeze it in. It's
the
worth it.
one visual you talked about earlier, sort of the shots within the party at the juke. I like the overhead when you keep looking up, and it's typically smoke up there, just kind of observing it. Again, it speaks to the difference between him and his brother. How
Yeah.
Stack is always down there in the shit, and Smoke is just watching to make sure everything goes off without a hitch. He's sort of a
Mm-hmm.
businessman, more reserved. But that shot at the end of that scene when the roof burns off, that is genius. I know, we know it's metaphorical, we know it's not actually happening, but the visual of the embers and then looking and seeing them dancing and like playing inside this fire, and then we pan out to the vampires that are finally arriving at this chaos. It's just
Mm-hmm.
such a beautiful shot.
There, like I said, there are so many good shots. Like not just the way you move through the juke, which I think is incredible how they do it throughout, but like you said, there's overhead shots, there's lighting shots that are really interesting, which I didn't even have time to research, and I was really curious about was the way they shot these like really super dark scenes. And I think one of the moments that's really compelling is when you are first introduced to the vampires, but you realize they're vampires, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
Haley's gone out there to talk to them. You've seen a couple teases of them. It's getting very dark. And then there's just a flash, right? Like of just like their eyes. And you can just tell that they're different. And the way that those various scenes where you're going in and out of higher light moments to lower light moments are so well balanced. And the use of light very intentionally is really well done. I mean, even when you see Cornbread later, like he's kind of tense and he's walking around and he's just out there trying to like take a piss, and there is very subtle light work happening and light movement happening that makes that really stressful. And I think that's hard to do. And it's not just the sound, it's the way that it's shot, and it's the light that they're the way that they're using light and dark in those various scenes.
Yeah. Even on the second watch, I couldn't tell when Cornbread is out there by himself. There's sort of these lights in the bushes, and they look like they could be animal eyes or creature eyes, and I'm trying to figure out, but it's
Mhm.
just meant to make you as an audience member feel uncomfortable and on edge. One thing that leads me to is I think this is a great horror movie because it doesn't play out predictably in the scares. I think there's a couple where,
Mm-mm.
just don't be an idiot and like stand next to and
Yeah.
put your ear up against the door in a horror movie, but there are so many like the Cornbread. It's him, taking a piss in the woods, and you hear these voices and he's looking around, and I think the last thing you hear is somebody goes peekaboo, and they just whisper it, and then it cuts back to the juke. It's
Yeah.
not a jump scare, there's not a
No,
big
nothing else happens with
noise.
it. Yep.
Even, and then with Mary, she's out there talking to them, it's very uncomfortable. She sees their eyes, decides to walk inside, and as she's walking away, you see Remick in the background start to lift off the ground. He gets like 3 feet off the
Mhm.
ground, and then it cuts again, and I just think that is unsettling. Sometimes is better than just being straight up scary.
Oh, I agree. Like I don't find jump scares interesting at all. Mostly because like you said, you can usually tell when they're coming. So you're like, okay, great.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people where like there are a lot of people who know when they're coming, they still jump, right? Like I don't jump. And I kind of want to, right? Like if I'm in a horror movie and I want to be scared or I want to be on the edge of my seat, you kind of want one or two to get you. And I don't think this one made me jump, to your point, but there are those moments where you're like, ooh, like what, like it's like a your breath catches a little
And
of like,
that's more
what was
likely
that?
to stick with you when the
Yeah.
film ends, as opposed to a horror movie that is solely predicated on jump scares is only good for one watch. And then
Yeah.
next time you watch it, you know where all the things are. It's never going to get you again.
Yeah.
A movie that can make you take that deep breath, or if you can get somebody to like have the willies like of, oh my God, I can't
Chills.
believe, yeah,
Yeah,
like
like
that will stick with you
shakiness.
after the movie, and on rewatch will still be valuable, I think.
Yeah, and I think this is one of those, again, speaking to kind of how it's shot and like some of those more subtle moments. I think this is one where because there is so much going on, and maybe you can speak to this better than me, where when you rewatch it, you're gonna see something different every time. You're gonna have a slightly different experience every time. And I bet again, just with the sensory overload almost, you're missing some of that. And there's more opportunity to observe some of the creepiness and some of those like really subtle things that maybe you missed.
Yeah, yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed this on rewatch. It was just as good as the first time, but I think I still had the same because we got to get to the things we didn't like about it. Granted, you've only had one watch, but we talked a
Nothing.
little bit
No, I'm just
about
kidding.
mine earlier. This from when they find out there are vampires, and we sort of get into this standoff situation where they're inside, the vampires are trying to get them to come out. I think that happens too late in the movie, but the thing that really bugs me is the sort of final fight that happens. It moves very quickly, where the vampires are sort of playing songs, they're freaking them out inside, eventually convincing the mom to say, come inside, because she wants to kill them so that they don't go kill her daughter.
No.
That happens. Vampires come in, and within 10 minutes, basically, the movie is over. And I kind of, maybe it's the horror fan in me, but I did want to see a little more of like people getting picked off and them getting creative. So for as slow as we took our time getting here, I wanted us to take a little more time with the demise of these characters, as opposed to a big action sequence, bunch of people die. Okay, now we're down to two or three of us, and now we play out the finale. So I don't know.
I could
What's your
see that.
reaction
I mean,
there?
I don't
Yeah.
think that's like an unfair criticism. I didn't, like I said, I didn't notice it really the first time. Again, maybe I would notice it the second time. I think For me though, generally that can get kind of boring because I do feel like where that starts to feel a little predictable. Like you said, there's opportunity to be creative with it. Like how do we pick them off and stuff like that. And if anybody could do it, I'm sure Ryan Coogler could do it really well. But I don't know how much of that is informed by this is a guy who's done a bunch of flicks over and over and over. And he said, and he did make something totally original. And I think that's what he was more focused on was the original parts of this story, right? And like again, I don't know exactly, but he has done action, he's done boxing, he's done these very like fight heavy sequences, and for him to do something really different, I think he needed to not focus on that part of it. I think you can do that and have it be overdone, and also I think it can, much like it does in Marvel movies, it can take over, you know? So I don't know. I don't know if
Yeah.
that's why, but I wonder how much of it was that. But I think for me, the I was just so satisfied to see some of what you do see. It's very exciting. And then I love getting to the fucking racist people getting their ass handed to them, like all the Nazis coming back trying to take, how to burn this place down or whatever it is that they want to do, and getting that like really satisfying end as well was kind of nice
Well,
for
we're
me.
gonna get to that next, but I just want to say that, like, I guess you could make the defense that he is subverting expectations and he's trying to go left when everyone expects him to go right. That makes
Sure.
sense. Another time that he does that is when they're doing sort of the Thing reference of we got to figure out who in here might be
Yeah.
infected. They do the garlic bit and they put the guy outside that they think is dead. And it
Yeah.
turns out he's not dead and that poor guy just gets eaten by vampires. But this one is unexcusable on the things that I didn't like about this. And this one is not a directing choice. It is just, I don't know how you mess this part up. When the vampires come inside and we have that sort of climactic battle, it's hard to see, first of all, because it is shot, to your point, like mostly in the dark, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? There's all these people fighting, there's people on fire, there's
Hmm.
death. You see a bunch of people dying, and then it cuts and you see, like, wait, all the main characters are basically still alive except for the lady who had the Molotov staking the vampire while being immolated. And that is a cool shot,
That is a
but
very cool shot. Yeah, to be fair.
there's all this death happening, and then we see
Hmm.
that, like, the main characters are all still here. And on rewatch, I made it a point to be like, who the fuck were all these extras that were getting killed? Where are they during the lead up? You can see maybe two guys standing in different scenes when they're sort of hunkered down after everyone else has left the juke. You might see two people in the background, but I couldn't see their faces to see if it was even the same guy. But the big one is during the garlic scene, they're all standing in a fucking circle and like everyone has to eat this
Hmm.
garlic. They go around, you see
They make
one
a
other
whole thing
person.
about Perline being like, I will not eat the
Yeah, I don't
garlic.
like this. And then Delta
That
Slim
part
like
I didn't
almost
like. I
choking
was
to
like,
death.
bitch, eat the garlic. Like, you just got to do it. I don't know
Yeah,
what to tell you.
you're being fussy just to be fussy. There's kind of a thing going on outside.
There's
We
like
need
a
to
big
take care of
situation
this.
that's worse than your like hatred of garlic. Come on.
But so there is one extra standing just inside the shot next to her. That is the only other person you see.
Mm.
And I just feel like Coogler shot that all improperly, or maybe there were extra scenes in, to my point of like, maybe we could have spread this out. Maybe there were more scenes interior there that showed the other people hanging out. But it's a little
Mm.
goof that is kind of, in my book, sort of a big goof just based on how the rest of the movie plays out. But I don't know.
I would need to see it again to see if there's like any excuse for it, to your point, but maybe it is just an editing thing, and that we're missing something that was cut out there. But yeah, I can't picture that, but I can see to the broader point of like, you don't know what happens to a bunch of those people like we do. That does go fast enough that you don't know where some of these people end up exactly. And I will say, if we're talking criticisms, I think it's very horror movie tropey, but it always bothers the shit out of me when people do stupid shit in horror movies that you're like, you would fucking never in real life, because
What's your
this is
example in this
so
one?
dumb. Well, it's like, Grace is like struggling with her husband being out there, and like, should she go get her daughter and all this stuff. And like, I hear you, I get it. But he's super already a vampire. And what are you thinking? And she is gonna die if you leave, because like no one will be there to take care of her, or they'll go target her, they'll follow you, you'll take them with you. Like, there's no good way for you to go to your daughter right now. And it's like just the way that she gets totally sucked in to their, you know, their pitch, so to speak, is really frustrating.
She
And then to your
is. I'm sorry, you had another
no,
point.
that's okay. To your point, this the door thing where they're like, you're getting right next to the door at the, you know, and you're like, why would you do that? That's so dumb. So
Especially
yeah, those are
after
my
he had
like
already
dumb
stabbed
moments.
through it once, and
Yes.
then Smoke goes right back up to that hole and is like, "What's going on in there,
But
dude?"
again, those are like very horror movie to me. Like
Yeah.
that feels like in every horror movie, maybe you have to have those dumb moments. I don't know, but those do bug me.
The Grace thing on rewatch was not as bad
Okay.
because she is the impetus for the vampires getting inside, but her
Mm-hmm.
logic is sound of if we don't she's basically campaigning, not that she wants to go get to her daughter, but she's like, we have to kill all of them tonight, because if we just survive the night, either they're going to go kill my daughter tonight or they're just going to come to our town tomorrow. So her logic is we need to kill all the vampires. So I
I
get
sort of get that, but I
why
also
she
sort of
says come
disagree with that
inside.
because you're not prepared to kill the vampires tonight. You're inside of a fucking juke. Let them come tomorrow. Prepare. You know what I
I
mean?
mean,
Like,
she thinks she's ready. She's got that Molotov, and it immediately just gets sideswiped. And it's like, great, now the building's on
well,
fire. Like,
and again, like you know, that's stupid, but it's a great shot. Like you said, I do think this all had to happen in one night. Also, by the way, I'm not saying literally go prepare and have another night of battles, but yeah, I don't know that I totally follow her logic. Like I sort of get it, but I don't always follow it. And also, if they don't have shelter in time, they burn up. So like maybe this is all good, but I guess we're operating under the premise that the people inside the juke don't know that necessarily. Like they
yeah.
don't know that they're going to burn up into flames.
Well, they said we just have to survive until daylight.
Yeah, so
So
they
they
do kind of
maybe
know.
they know that there's a reason they go inside. But to
Yeah.
that exact
Anyways, a couple
point,
little
when we
little
say
things.
dumb horror movie, and not just horror, I'm sure there's others, but when you do, it's not even the hive mind piece that bothers me. They sort of work the hive mind into this. I hate when villains get themselves defeated. Like, to my point earlier, Remick has Sammy dead to rights. To our knowledge, he's the only one still alive. And rather than just converting him while the sun is coming up and fucking off back into the juke to like sleep for a day, he talks a bunch of shit that leaves him vulnerable. He gets hit, and then they do the whole hive mind of everyone feels his pain when he's hurt. And that line of dialogue is like the one piece of sound in this that I was like, that could have been Annie yells it during the massive fight. She says they feel his pain to let us know that the
Mm-hmm.
whole group is impacted when Remick gets hurt. But it's actually under all the action noise that's going on.
Mm.
But that's why when Sammy hits him with the guitar and he's being burned by the silver or whatever, all the other vampires are freaking out and like not able to get inside. So that makes sense. But I just hate it when villains get themselves beaten from like something like Sammy didn't really do much in that situation to
That
win.
does
It was
feel like
just,
a not even just a horror movie thing, but like a villain movie thing of like
yeah,
they kind of are partially responsible for their own demise through one thing or another. You know what I mean? So
it's the old like Scott Evil in Austin Powers. Like, I got a gun, I'll just shoot him in the head right now. He's like, no, that's not how we do it. Like, we have to have an elaborate trap,
we
put
have to
him
have a
behind a close.
talk.
Yeah.
We have to have a whole conversation. Yeah, I think that's part of it at least. But I think the one of the last things I have, and I'm sure you might have one or two more, but one of the last things I have is I like the overarching structure though. I like the way that this battle ends. I like the way that they come back to the beginning, which we didn't really call out at the top, which is that you are introduced to this scenario by Preacher Boy showing up back at home with a broken guitar and covered in blood and
Mm-hmm.
driving a car, right? Like an old car and beat up. And he looks like he's been through some shit. And then the best part of that is that it was like, what did it say? That morning, the night before, like whatever it
Yeah.
was, it's less than 24 hours, right? So like the cut to is earlier that day or whatever. And you're like, all of this is going to happen in one fucking day. And I just think that sets up all of this so well. Again, where you're like, a lot fucking happened in this one day. A lot has really happened. And then you come back to that at the end where you're like, it's all coming together and you're kind of seeing him get home. But my favorite part of the whole thing is like, that's one really well shot. And you see the guitar having gone through its shit and all of that. But I love that this is like the biggest I told you so ever from a parent. Right? He has warned him. He's like, you
Yeah.
gonna dance with the devil, son. Like you are calling down some powerful shit when you go do, and it's that fire and brimstone preacher
Yeah.
mentality that you as a teenager, we all have dismissed so many times, right? And then this kid literally called down the thunder, and here we are at the end of the next day or the early morning next day, and he's like, you know what, Dad, you're right. Like, I love that
I
full
felt
circle moment.
I think I agree with like the 90% of what you said, but he doesn't drop the guitar at the end. So even though he knows this
Mm-hmm.
has risk and danger to it, he still keeps the guitar in
No,
his
I
hand
think
and walks out to be a musician. Yeah.
right. I don't think he's saying like, Dad, I would give up my music. I don't mean that. Let me be
Right.
clear. I think he's just saying like, you were right that this comes with risk and everybody's fucking dead. And here we are. Like, you're totally right. But that connection and that music and that talent that I have and that spirituality really that comes with it is my spirituality, is my church, so to speak, is that important to me. And so, yeah, he doesn't give up the music, and I don't think he should. And I think that's part of the story. But I think, yeah, to your point, he is acknowledging you were right about the risk.
Yeah.
And, and here we are, and look what happened. And it's a little bit humorous, but it's also kind of beautiful that he's like, this is my calling.
Yeah. Do you think the devil shows up only if you're a really good guitar player, or if like you're really good on the xylophone? Might the devil show up, or
I
like the
think you have to
triangle?
like have a tambourine,
Okay.
but like a triangle's not going to do it. You know what I mean? Yeah, like a
What if
xylophone, a
you're a
marimba.
really good triangle player? Like you get
I
a
don't.
solo at the jazz club. You're just like,
The triangle players are going to come for me, right? If I say anything else.
I'm staying
So
on the right side of history
you
here,
know what? It can be anything. It can be anything, and then the devil will
but
come for you. You'll be so honored.
yeah. The last thing I wanted to circle back to, because I kind of you mentioned it before, was just I think the ending sits better for as much as I complain about that action, the final act being rushed, in my opinion. It lands better because we have the KKK getting what's coming to them. That whole sequence of Michael B. Jordan
Fuck
slow
those
motion,
guys.
muscles out, shooting a Tommy gun at the KKK.
I
Great
just love
visual
that he brought a Tommy gun home and that
from
we got a
Chicago.
Tommy gun out of
Yes,
this
yeah.
moment. And yeah, what a perfect application. Fuck these guys. I love it.
And that leading into, I think the scene is really well done with Smoke's death scene. Like he takes off the charm that's protected him this whole time, we assume, if we're believing in sort of voodoo in this, or what, and the religious components, the supernatural components, vampires are in this, whatever the proper term is. I apologize if voodoo's not correct. But he takes off the necklace, he gets shot. His death scene is really well done when I think Annie and his daughter appear and he's sort of talking to them. She has that line of, put out that cigarette, I don't want any smoke on her. Heyo, that's a pun. Like, leave that persona behind, Elijah, come be with us. And I think that's a pretty cool ending.
That was so subtly done. It took me a second, but good on you. Good on you. Yeah, I do agree. I think that's a nice scene. I think the only thing about that scene that I don't love is the baby being there. I mean, I don't know if it's like how the baby is there or what. And I don't dislike it. It just makes it hard. It's the baby that they lost. And also, she's like breastfeeding her. So I don't know if the implication is like they're
Women
gonna
are
get.
allowed to breastfeed in public, Mackenzie.
I'm aware.
Don't be
I'm
one of
aware
those.
that is allowed.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's not allowed. I'm saying I personally don't want to look at it, but it's absolutely, you're right to do that. And I support you. You're feeding a whole ass human. But it's more about what it implies, because it's like, is the dream like you're gonna like now have this, you're gonna raise the baby in this new world? I don't know. It was kind of distracting to
That's
me, is
how
what I'm
I
saying.
read it. It was
Took me
like,
on like,
yeah, they're gonna start a new life in heaven or whatever, and they're
yeah,
gonna raise this child.
yeah. And I don't know, I mean, to your point, I don't know if she's supposed to be practicing voodoo or hoodoo. This is supposed to be in Mississippi, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Also, it's shot in New Orleans, so like there's a lot of hoodoo influence there. So I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but it is absolutely a charm that we're supposed to understand has protected him the whole time. And I do like you said, that he's made his choice, right? Like, I'm not going to go be a vampire. I'm going to go be with my family. And I think as much as he is going to miss his brother and how sad that will be in so many ways, I think it's a conscious choice, and at the end of the day, for him, a really peaceful one.
Yeah, I think he's content with it.
Yeah. Well, okay, before we give our ratings, I know we've just wrapped up what all happened. I have a fun couple factoids about this that we didn't really get to that I want to share just in terms of production and impact. I think it's really awesome to note that Coogler is a Black filmmaker. He has a great like couple interviews actually about his story and how he came up. He grew up in California, grew up in Oakland, and he went to film school. And was also a football player, and he's just incredibly talented. If you look at just the breadth and depth of his skills and the films that he's done, and also we have learned he's a very talented negotiator because he negotiated the distribution rights so well that he asked for, this is, I'm not going to translate it all for you, but these are big asks. First dollar gross, final cut privilege, ownership of the film 25 years after its release. And there was a bidding war for the distribution rights to this, but people wouldn't give him most of those, including like the ownership rights is a big deal. Final cut is even a big deal, of course, but first dollar gross. So these are big asks for a director. There's only a few directors who have gotten this in the past, and a couple, I think one of them is Tarantino, for example. He's carried a lot of weight there. But this was in the news when this happened. And the way that this story was told is really important to call out, is like how this was a threat to the system, that Ryan Coogler is upending Hollywood with his deal. Again, never mind that a white guy did this a decade ago, and it was viewed as genius, as something that he was so talented and so incredible to have been able to demand and negotiate. So I just want to give Ryan Coogler a shout out because he demanded something incredible here. He got it on his terms. He deserved it. He was worthy of it. This work is worthy of it. And it's no different than white filmmakers who have been able to do this in the past. So I just want to upend that narrative and shout him out because that is fucking badass. Number one.
I mean, it's a little different from white filmmakers who have done it because Ryan Coogler is not white. It doesn't mean they're both allowed to do it, but I don't think it's the exact same thing. Just
literally, yes, literally, it's not the exact same thing. You are correct. Okay, and then the next thing I wanted to call out was just a really cool production factoid, which is that this was done so fucking fast. So like I said, it was shot in New Orleans, but it started on April 14th, 2024. I need you guys to understand that we are recording this on May 14th, 2025. This is less than a year later that this film was shot, edited, produced, the whole shebang, distributed in theaters in less than a year. And this is his first original film. The other stuff that he's done in the past has been based on true stories, been comic books, been other source material. This is his first original idea. So he built this, developed it, and then just fucking cranked it out. And I think that's important to note. So
I think it helps when you just have a cohesive vision of what you want to do, not just it being his movie, but it's like he's working with an actor that he always works with. He's working with a composer that he always works with. Like he has and you've
got some strong
about,
collaborators that you're very comfortable with. I think you're right.
You talked earlier about how they took their time with the preparation for the scenes that they knew were going to be heavy lifts, but it just seems like he's a really good event planner and a really good project manager.
He's a really good filmmaker, yeah. And his team and his cinematographer and everybody is, his DP, they're all really, really good because that is some really fast production. It's super incredible. And yeah, it's still in theaters right now as we're recording this, to be clear. So I just think it's really impressive how it went so quickly, and it had a $100 million budget, and it's more than made that back and counting. It's like over 200 and something. Let's see, 287.9 so far. So pretty impressive. Anyway, all those fun facts and Ryan Coogler fangirling to say, what's your rating?
I'm going back and forth between an 8 and 8.5. I think I'm going to
start. For
those
of you not watching, he has a real look of like consternation on his face. He's like, he's struggling right now.
I would go, I think I'm going to start at an 8.5 for now, but I will say that there are films like this where I'm blown away the first couple times I watch it, and then going forward, I'm like, drop it a little bit just in the annals of history. But I'll start it at an 8.5 for now. I think there's a lot to love here, and there's so much that I do love. There's a couple little hiccups in there that I would change, or just things where I would have shot things differently. But it's so fucking good.
I think I would give it a 9 because, again, with the asterisk that I haven't rewatched it, so even some of the ones that you brought up, like I just don't remember that. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I would concede maybe on second watch, like some of that pacing at the end might feel differently, but just purely based on the first watch, it felt great. It didn't feel long or slow, and it didn't feel rushed at the end. And I just, even before doing the research at all, like you notice so many things about how this is made and how well it's made, and then on top of that, it's just beautifully acted, and it's gorgeous music and music that I just happen to love. I don't know what weirdo doesn't like blues, but I love blues, I love jazz, I love, and I just thought it was such an immersive experience. So yeah, I would say a 9 for now. We'll see how that ages. Yeah.
Cool.
All right, fam. Thanks for joining. If you couldn't tell, this was a fun one for us. We had there's just so much richness to talk about, regardless of what you would rate it. So I think highly, highly, highly recommend you go check it out for sure.
For sure. While it's in theaters, get a taste of that music and that sound, if it's still out by the time our episode comes out.
And it is in IMAX. There's only literally, I think, 6 or 8, I can't remember, IMAX 70 millimeter theaters in the country. So there's not one in Austin, for example, where Lamar and I would see it, but there are a couple IMAXs here. So if you can see it in IMAX, I would recommend it. It was shot that way. So, but in general, yeah, just see it in real life. Definitely recommend. And as we said, this is just June. I think maybe we should also call it just June surprise edition. I don't know. So come back next week where we will surprise you with what our next movie is. We're going to watch a beverage. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to drink a thing. We don't know what that is yet, and neither do you. So, but come back, check it out. And in the meantime,
follow us on our socials. We drink and we watch things on Instagram and TikTok. You can also catch the video portion of this on YouTube or Spotify video. Give us some likes, reviews, comments, whatever the heck you want. And then you can also email us. We drink and we watch things pod@gmail.com.
And come watch this one. Even if you didn't watch the whole thing, just to see the Lamar's hat game today. You got to check it out.
Yeah. There's only going to be a handful of movies that this makes sense for. So you got to see.
Maybe the next one will be Newsies and we'll just have a run of it. No, I'm just kidding. All right, homies. For now, though, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.